And welcome to another edition of Odyssey House Journals. I'm Trip Mitchell, and that's Randall Carlisle. And Randall, you'll recognize as being the guy who used to come into your living room twice a night. And you were invited.
And I was invited. Unfortunately, a lot of people fell asleep looking at me. So, what can you say?
There was a rumor as kids that the newsmen could look through their TV and see us.
Thank God it's false.
Okay, well, I just wondered.
Can you imagine if you were on TV and you're reading the teleprompter and you can see somebody falling asleep and say, "Hey, you wake up, wake up! I've got
this
an important
is a really
story."
important story."
Yeah, right.
What's the biggest mistake that you made on teleprompter?
I didn't make any on. I was brighter. I've seen. Well, if you watched Anchorman, you saw him. They wrote a script and he read it that he shouldn't have. I have worked with somebody who, because everything's scripted out and it'd be like, "Good evening, I'm Randall Carlisle. Good evening, I'm Kimberly Perkins," that kind of stuff. And so it's written there. And I worked with one anchor, and I'm not going to name his name because people here would know him, but a different name was written in for when he was supposed to say, "And I'm so and so."
Something would.
And he read the other person's name, and then he's, "No, I'm not. I'm so and so."
Brilliant.
I never did that. Okay.
So you were very smooth. And did you read all your scripts? Did you write all your scripts?
I wrote all my scripts, so I knew what.
So you put them in the teleprompter.
Although the producers, there was a pecking order as to who could change a script after the anchor looked it over and changed it or whatever, and there still were people higher up who could change it, who could throw in something like they did on Anchorman. So
my guys.
If I came to that word, that he said when he was saying goodnight to San Diego, I would have seen that word ahead of time and probably not read it.
Okay, so, well that's very good.
Because I wouldn't have worked in TV as long as I did.
So Randall, since retiring from TV, you now are at Odyssey House, loving life. And the purpose of this show is to talk to people, interview people in the community with the subject of addiction in mind, but a lot of great stories out there of people who have had addiction issues and beaten it. And we've met through the first 14 shows some great people. And with that in mind, Randall, who are we talking to?
Well, and the fact that there's recovery. So we didn't want to just do a podcast about Odyssey House, but there are so many different people working in so many different ways in the recovery movement. And one that we haven't talked about is something that you and I hate, is exercise. But so this is Blu Robinson, and he started a program called Addict II Athlete. Mm-hmm. So tell us how it started and how long it took to grow it, and why. I mean, we're in recovery, and we don't run, but
yet you don't run yet.
Listen,
well, no, I still play hockey.
There you go.
And in Utah, beer and hockey don't go together, but in Canada and the other 49 states they do.
Oh yeah,
and it's
standard issues.
Yeah, exactly. Before and after the game.
So tell us, Addict II Athlete.
Yeah,
I mean, it's sort of it's an interesting name. How did you come up with it? How did it start?
Kind of a funny story, actually. I was working down as a therapist at Utah County Division of Substance Abuse in 2011. And as a primary therapist, part of our program was that the clients needed to go and do at least 3 community meetings outside of their regularly scheduled, therapeutic, schedule outside in the community. So they do 12-step groups and all that kind of stuff. Well, one day I was coming back from lunch and I noticed all my clients were kind of huddling by the back of a pickup. And I'm like, they're up to no good, right?
This is probably not good.
No, that's what I thought. So I snuck over there and I gave them the, "What are you guys doing?" Kind of spooked them a little bit. And they were actually forging their 12-step sign-off sheets and, to turn them in. And I'm like, "You guys, what are you doing that for?" I'm like, "It's there to help you." And they were kind of giving me all the, standard issue things. "Oh, don't have time," and all this kind of stuff. But one of them kind of just made mention that it's not something that's working directly for me. He's like, "I kind of find it hard to wrap my head around." And so I took that kind of thought of, well, what else is out there? And there wasn't much in Utah County other than the basic standard 12-step meetings. And they're great. They're fantastic. But some people have a hard time with them. So in my own recovery, my own sobriety pursuits, I found mountain biking and recreation and health. And when I married my wife, her family was very much into running. And so I started doing that, doing races. And it kind of built up my confidence and my esteem. And so I just had an idea. What if we did a couch to 5K with some of my clients to see if this would work to just give them something different to do. So I approached my supervisors, and they all thought I was crazy because people that are in active recovery aren't the healthiest bunch of people. But they gave me their blessings, and we trained for what was called the Chase the Mayor 5K in Provo. And the funniest thing about this race was it started right out in front of our building starting line. So we practiced and we'd train and we'd do all these exercises and stretching. But the funny thing happened is as we were training these 5 athletes, these 5 people in recovery, to start running and do this race, Chase the Mayor, they started talking to me about all kinds of therapeutic issues. They started getting into deeper stuff, and I was kind of thinking, why are they telling me all this stuff about their life and about their trauma out here in the open and not in my office that I've been taught to have feng shui and waterfalls and all this kind of stuff, nice lighting. And it was the funniest thing because they'd talk to me about all kinds of stuff that they never would before. And I thought, well, we're doing something here. We trained them up for about a month, and we got them ready for the 5K. And right before we started this 5K, one of our athletes, his name was Tyson, he handed out these shirts that said Addict II Athlete. That's kind of the name that we chose. And it means moving from one to another. And we chose the Roman numeral 2 because in the Roman numeral system, they don't use 0. The lowest you can be in the Roman numeral system is 1. So once you add something to that, the 2, Addict II Athlete, you can build upon that. So there's a foundation there. So there's some symbolism and stuff there, but I said, if you guys wear these shirts, just know that you're no longer anonymous, because that's something they really push, the anonymity of it all. And they're like, we don't care. We want to show what we're doing. So they all lined up. They gave Mayor John Curtis a 2-minute head start, and that was, I guess, the trick was to chase him down and maybe pat him on the behind as you run by. I don't know. But he got a 2-minute head start, and then they said go, and all my athletes took off. And I was just kind of like, okay, well, here goes nothing. And the funniest thing happened, though, is as our athletes caught the mayor, and all but one caught him, Mayor Curtis, he looked at their shirt and said, Addict II Athlete, what is that? And for the first time, this client of mine, Tyson, he was now able to talk to the mayor of Provo about heroin addiction and how he's overcoming it. He's using this group and this new thing that we're doing as an outlet for positivity. And I can only think that Mayor Curtis was wondering how he's getting beat by a ex-heroin addict.
A heroin addict, yeah.
But it catalysted into this what we have today, which was when they all finished and their families were cheering for them and they got this feeling of accomplishment. It was that little bit of instant gratification that they got by finishing and getting a medal, and they were excited to do the next one. But each one of them had an experience by sharing their sobriety and recovery story with other runners.
So in Utah County, our perception in Salt Lake County is that Utah County has no
drug problem.
No drug problem whatsoever. And that's not the case. Can you enlighten us as to what the challenges are?
Absolutely. It's a big challenge because of the stigma and because of what people think an addict and addiction truly is. And so when I created Addict II Athlete, it was to eliminate the stigma of what an addict is. And pretty soon, because we kind of dropped that barrier of the anonymity, because I wanted them to be walking billboards of their sobriety, I wanted them to use it as we say, erase and replace. That's more than just health and exercise. That's also service and family and balance, but also to turn your mess into a message. And so while they're out there running under the jersey of Addict II Athlete, they're sharing their recovery with everyone. And we've had a huge impact down there just in community service, in their health and recreation. And really the community's rallied around us. It's been kind of amazing. Like, from city league sports, we play softball and basketball. Do lots of running all the way down to speaking engagements at high schools and all kinds of stuff. So we're trying to, again, just obliterate the stigma of what an addict is, because these folks have amazing stories that need to be shared.
Which would be hard to do in Utah. I'm not trying to stigmatize Utah County, but it's a fairly conservative county and
absolutely
heavily religious. So
yeah, absolutely.
Would you guess, or would you say that there's a perception out there that if you have a drug or alcohol problem in Utah County, it's because you're weak? Or
yeah, I think that's sometimes how it is, especially when you look at what's being abused. It's a lot of prescription medications, and
I've heard that Utah County is one of the highest counties in the country in that regard.
Well, and it's unfortunate because of that veil and that mask that they wear of trying to be perfect, and it happens a lot. So what we've done is we've shown people that with our meetings that we do, we have meetings in almost every, from the top of the state all the way to the bottom now. And we have people that have addictions and people that don't have addiction to attend. So we want them to learn from each other. And that has helped significantly, because now the person that struggles with addiction can help the person that doesn't. and vice versa. And so we are starting to eliminate some of that stigma just because of being so open and public. But it's a big problem down there because of the mask that they wear. But it's funny you say that. I was actually just released as a bishop about a year ago, and so my congregation knew specifically that I struggled with addictions, and it was very
I've never
beneficial
heard that
for me.
before. I guess that's naivete. And
Yeah,
that you can be a bishop in the church.
Having been in recovery,
Yeah.
absolutely. You're looking at one. So it
About
helped
that?
me significantly.
We have an exclusive on this podcast.
Sometimes my naivete.
Bishop Robinson.
That's right.
Yes.
That is, I'm.
And what it was is, having now almost, my last time of using was in 1996. I've learned significant aspects of why we use and what we do with it, and kind of tailored it to my own understanding. But these are the folks that I think they need to hear from, are people that have been through those situations, so that they can share a different insight and they can show that recovery and ultimately healing is possible if you apply the right principles.
And that it's not a moral decision, it's a disease.
Absolutely, absolutely. And no one chooses to do this. The moral code.
How
of
many
that
happy
is-
heroin addicts do you find?
Come on, not very many for very long. But that was the thing, and it was funny when we were doing an interview with BYU once, and they found that out because the interviewer asked, "Well, what does your youth think?" And I'm like, "They like it because I can help them. I can show them how addictions, plague their lives and whatnot." And it's been a real benefit for me to open up in that way spiritually because, it's not worn on your sleeve. It's very much, in the moment, and you go from what your heart's telling you is right and what's wrong. And I think that we do lose that sometimes. That moral code kind of gets us caught up.
Well, and it is so interesting in this state, and we talk about this virtually every show because we're perceived as being an LDS population. We don't have any of the alcohol issues, and that's not the case at all.
No.
And then when it comes to prescription drugs, no one wakes up in the morning and decides to get addicted.
That's very true.
You hurt yourself, your doctor prescribes it, and maybe for someone who's never had alcohol in their life, the first time you have an Oxycontin or something, that's a pretty euphoric feeling.
Absolutely. It takes away all the pain, not just the physical, the emotional, the mental, and all that stuff. And that's why it keeps going. And, being in the field for this long, because I've been working in the field for, almost 15, 16 years, I've seen some patterns in all this stuff. Yeah. It's because I keep running. I see patterns in a lot of this stuff, and you start seeing kind of, the substances that people use are kind of suppress the behaviors that they're trying to exude. So if you're, drinking alcohol or you're smoking marijuana, those folks tend to have pretty high levels of depression. The self-medicating thing is a very real thing. And so opiates, if there's real pain there, if there's trauma there, of course they're going to numb it out, And I look at these things. That's why I love working in the world of addictions, is because once you kind of tease out those secrets of what caused that stuff and get down to the core of it, you don't use it as an excuse anymore to keep going. And so in my practice, what we try to do is help them see the bigger picture of, your drug use is a symptom of something deeper. Let's go find out what that is. And so through Addict II Athlete, they can achieve goals and they can do things that they never thought possible. We have several athletes that have become ultra marathon runners. Those are anything above 26.2 mile runs, and we've had several that have done 100 milers. And the question I get is, are you erasing addiction and replacing it with addiction? And no, you're not. Because
even if you were, it'd be a heck of a lot
better,
better,
right? Yeah, because there's a lot more to it than that. It's not just running, because they don't go for bigger, badder, faster, stronger. They go for the journey, who they can inspire, and who they can help.
Well, with running, you have got so many hundreds of hours of training just for that. That race is that's the culmination.
Absolutely.
That's the candle on the cake.
And his group is huge now. What are the numbers now?
Well, it's funny. We started with those 6 people, and by the grace of our higher power, we got another chance to do it again. And pretty soon it just started to steamroll and get bigger. And pretty soon we're looking at about 9 chapters now, from Cache County all the way to St. George, and spotted all over in the middle. We are at the Utah State Prison, which is interesting. We have to run a very exclusive 5K with the Conquest program.
It's probably not 2 miles out and 1.6 back.
No, it's about 25 laps around the inside of their track. Yeah.
Okay.
But it was awesome to go there.
You
and
notice
run
my
with
math
them.
skills. I was trying to divide 3.1 miles in half, and I failed miserably.
Well, I'm with you too. That's why I'm a counselor, right?
Okay.
We don't do math. But it has helped a lot of people, which is still kind of boggling my mind because, again, it started just
We
as
had
a resource.
our first guest on this program, and this program ended up being tremendous good luck for her. She was facing a pretty good federal hitch in prison, but yet had gone to Odyssey House to get clean and sober before going to prison, and it looks like she's not going to have to.
Wow.
Right.
But the people who are preparing for something really bad, and because of my own alcohol issues, I wonder if I ever got some horrible news, let's say I had 3 weeks to live.
Yeah.
Would I drink? Would I just say the heck with it and drink? And I would hope not. But
Right.
We raise that in AA meetings. I think it's a good topic sometimes, and a lot of people say, I'd go to the liquor store and just go
Medicate
into some
myself
haze
too.
until I
Go for it.
died.
Yeah.
My thought on that, I think initially when I got sober the last time, was at first I'd say I drink, but now that I've had like going on 7 years of sobriety, I think I'd like to. I like life and I like seeing the world, and I don't think I'd like to die just being in a fog.
Yeah, hidden somewhere.
And
Yeah.
a lot of people look at it that in sobriety you see things, you feel things, you emote, you do so many things that alcohol or drugs just cover up.
Absolutely.
You can go through life just, in a perfect 10 when you're high or drunk and a perfect 1 the rest of the time. Or you can go through it a 6, maybe a 7 is a nice way to go through life.
You know, it's interesting because we relate that a lot to our program, especially with some of our endurance runners. And it's funny because I've wondered this, why do so many people that have had addictions, that are in recovery, how can they suffer through a 24-hour race? One of our biggest ones we've done was the Badwater. It's 135 miles in Death Valley in July. So you literally go from below rock bottom to the top, to the peak of Mount Whitney, which is the highest part in the continental U.S. And the metaphor that is from coming below rock bottom to reaching that point, I say, how can they do this? And it's interesting because I've noticed that the people that have had addictions, that struggle, that hurt, that find a way to persevere and get through, that pain of hearing that jail cell door slam behind you compares nothing to the pain that you're having when your legs are trying to cramp up going up a mountain. They've been through more pain than anything physically they're going to be able to do, and so they know where to channel it. And so it's been kind of a neat thing to watch them grow and kind of mature in their sobriety by getting very in touch with their own way of being, their own abilities. And it's kind of a neat, inspiring thing to watch when everyone else has counted these guys out, and yet they keep crossing these finish lines. It's pretty amazing.
The idea of being physically healthy while you're in recovery is pretty significant. Odyssey House has recognized that, and we take our clients to Fit to Recover, which is Utah's only sober gym. Okay, we take them, I think, 3 times a week, and it's really important.
Where is that located?
It's off of 9th South and 13th something West. I don't know. It's in an old warehouse, and it was set up by people in recovery. And it becomes, for people in residential recovery, it becomes a highlight of the day to be able to go over there and exercise. But it also, we're recognizing that it's a basic element of recovery if you want to get into the physical health aspect while you're making your mind better and everything else, that it helps.
Absolutely, it does.
And you've got how many? Several thousand people.
Yeah,
now?
we have upwards of 3,000 people now, and then that's all throughout the country and whatnot. But we have a lot of active programs. We just started one in Elko, Nevada, so we spilled over the state finally. And it's funny because it's a 501c3, but it's really just kind of a hobby we've started. And I've always thought it's going to fizzle out, but it just keeps getting bigger. So we are just.
How do you find your funding?
It's 100% off of donations. Like, we don't do any kind of advertising, and we don't make any profit off of this. We put it back into the team because what I've noticed is that when you give back to your community that you used to take from through addictions, it gets the folks motivated to do more. And so we have a lot of people that don't necessarily like to run, And so they do a ton of service. Yeah. We started a program called Addict to Artist, which is the same principles, only we use art as a modality of recovery because that's pretty vulnerable when you're putting your art
By
out
the way,
there.
that's a big word for the show. Thank you.
What,
Just,
modality?
yeah,
Oh,
you just
okay.
upped our.
Good, there we go.
MODALITY.
That's
Okay,
right.
look it up.
And so we've done that, but then we started what's called the Addict to Athlete Minor League, and that's the 18-year and younger group. And what we found was that our meetings that we have, they're safe. They're good places. We don't, it's just the way the nature of it is developed is that it's a safe place to bring your kids. And so we found a need to start bringing, professionals in to help these kids because they're the kids of the addict or the person who's struggling. And our minor league, we will help sponsor them for soccer or for football. We had one client that came in, one athlete that came in, and they needed help to get into football. I didn't realize how much high school football costs for a family member to play. It's well upward of $500. And so basically what was said was, hey, we'll donate this money to you so your son can play, but don't tell him where it came from. You guys do it, but you're going to be at every game. You're going to cheer the loudest. You're going to bring the Kool-Aid at the end. You're going to be there at all of their games, and they did. And it kind of hit me the magnitude of what the program generates. If that kid didn't get to play because his parents are being, they have to pay court fines, they have to pay treatment fines, they have to go to treatment, they have to go to meetings. When do they have time to be a parent?
And that Friday
about.
night is a heck of a
Big deal.
celebration for that family.
Absolutely. So if they're at the football game watching their kid play Friday night, I know where they're going to be Saturday morning, right? And so that's kind of the mentality that we had, and we just started snowballing until it created this program. It's kind of life of its own. But my athletes, the ones that I work with, my team captains and my coaches throughout the state, they make me look pretty good, but this is their program. It's not mine. I get to be the face of it because they don't like talking in public, but it's their program, and that's what's neat about it is each chapter that has started has been completely grassroots level, and so it just keeps on growing.
I know some people who are in his program in the Salt Lake area who are just nuts over the program. I mean, every weekend, it's a particular woman, I won't say her name because I don't know whether she wants publicity or not, but she posts about running all these. Like, I just took a short run today, and it's a whole bunch of miles, and I'm sitting on the couch looking on
Yeah.
Facebook at what she posted, and it makes a difference to people who are maintaining recovery. I mean, it's not just people like in our program going over to FTR. It's people who lifelong want to stay clean and sober.
And for many people, the art of exercising, but more importantly, running. You get a high from running.
Oh, you do, absolutely. And it's the endorphins that are released. And what's funny is there's a treatment modality out there that I've been trained in called EMDR. It helps with trauma. And when those clients were out there running with me and they started telling me all these things about life and stuff they'd never told me in my office, I thought it was because we were out in the open and they were just feeling good not being in my office. But what it was EMDR, left-right brain stimulation. As you're running, as you're exercising, you're processing stuff too. That's why you get into some of these marathons and you see people like push through this stuff and they're crying and stuff. It's because they're dealing with life. And so I thought I was creating something new, but I was just putting another pillar on something that's already been established. But it works really well that way, and that's kind of a neat thing to see how they work out their problems and their emotions. That specific athlete that you're talking about helped us with a project of getting a special needs pushing wheelchair for some disabled children that we have on our team.
Right.
So our team now takes turn to push the handicapped children so that they can feel that rush of being in a race. And so I've learned that as we fundraise and as we do these things, to never underestimate someone that has addiction in their past, because they can create things out of nothing. They're the most amazing producers I've ever seen. And they raised $6,000 to buy this chair for this child that we work with, and it's a good experience to be able to push this young lady in all of our races, because she's a child of addiction herself. Her parents were addicted, and she came out with some pretty heavy handicaps because of it. And so we give back through our legs pushing her. So there's always these metaphors and always this constant desire to want to do more and want to be more available.
I was working in TV news when they had that fundraiser, and I think it ended at Pioneer Park, and they had succeeded, and so they showed the person who was getting the wheelchair, and it was like, it was high emotion. They all finished running, they raised all this money, and they did a really good thing. And how can you not feel good about that, about yourself and about the team that did it and everything? And you know, that's got to be part of recovery, just feeling good about yourself.
It's that service aspect that's
Yeah.
so important. And we had a guy that was pushing her once, and we were going up behind the state capitol. And it's kind of steep hills up there.
Sure.
And he wouldn't let anyone else do it. He wanted to do it himself because he felt like he needed to. When he got to the top of it, he just broke down into tears. And I said, "What's going on here?" And he says, "You know what? I have my own able-bodied children, and I've never done this for them." And so he felt that strength of like, I've got to do something more for my family. If I can do this, I can do anything. So it's a big part of their emotional investment to get out of their comfort zones and to do things. Everyone comes in like I heard today, I'm not a runner. And that's what's funny is everyone thinks a runner means you got to be first. Nah. We love it when our athletes come in last because you never finish alone. The athletes that run in before them go back out just because and pick up that last person. So you never know who would be finishing last because they have a whole team around them. So it really is. It's all grassroots stuff.
Yeah, the finishing last. And when it was funny, when I lived here in the 80s, they had a Beat Beethoven 5K run in the early 80s downtown, and they had the symphony play Beethoven's Fifth, and you'd try to beat them.
Oh my gosh.
And I went out, and I was leading probably 3,000 runners. I was leading at a half mile, and I was throwing up in the ditch at 940 yards. And so the next week, there was another race, and I decided to start first, start last, run last, and finish last. Yeah. And that's hard to do.
It's not easy to do, is it?
It isn't.
It's hard.
But that feeling of accomplishment. So if someone wants to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
Oh, easy. We're all over social media. Our best way is our website, addicttoathlete.org. It's a neat thing because we have all of our chapters throughout the state have all of their rec activities, everything on our calendar, and so team captains and coaches are all listed on our website.
And it's Addict Roman numeral 2 or 2 Athlete.
Yeah, so it's addicttoathlete.org.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But if you Google us, you can put Roman numeral in there and it'll find us.
So what teams do you have in Salt Lake Valley? What do you need a couple old guys for?
Oh, heavens, Betsy. We need lots of bodies up there. We need people.
Fire the gun at the start.
We need those. Absolutely. We need those. Like I said, it's not necessarily has to be about athletics. It has to be about just your willingness to get to know these people, to cheer for them, to support them, to call attention to the movement. Just by being present with these folks, I've noticed is an absolute pleasure. And a lot of times it's going in there and sharing your story and letting them know that they're not alone and they're doing it for a reason and for purpose. Helping them turn their mess into a message means they've got to hear your messages so that they can strengthen their own. And so once you're part of Addict to Athlete, whether you are an Olympian or whether you're a couch potato, you're part of the team. And that's the beauty of it is we have personal trainers. That's what they call themselves. They're not licensed personal trainers, but we call them that in lieu of sponsors. And so what they do is if someone's struggling, they don't just call, they go get them and they go for a hike, they go for a run, they go play batting cages, they do these things so they can erase and replace. And so the community support is phenomenal with anyone that wants to come share their story with them, just be invested in giving time. It's the biggest thing for them.
That's fantastic. What a great message.
It's fun.
And you welcome donations.
Oh yeah, we do. That kind of helps. We're getting big. We kind of need some more.
So
money.
We have some information at the bottom of the screen on that very subject.
Very good.
So we've got your phone number, name, and website down at the bottom of the screen. If you feel like you can help, you can coach, you know someone who needs to be on the team.
Absolutely.
And God bless if you had a few dollars to throw in that direction.
Yes.
That is amazing.
It help a lot.
We just finished our Angels Hands Foundation hockey tournament.
Beautiful.
We raised a lot of money for Angels Hands. And, to have athletes around the community to help out, be it children's illness to whatever, athletes are very, very apt to help. But more importantly, if you're suffering and you can get out and work out each day, you feel better.
You feel better. Yeah. And that's one thing that we do. Part of it is running and exercising, but we want to give back to our communities. And so when there are events like that, like the hockey tournament, or there are 5Ks that are nonprofit where we can bring 50 to 60 athletes, each paying $10 a piece to run a race, right. That's a significant increase. So by requirement, each month we run one of those or participate in something nonprofit so we can give back to the community that they once took from. So we're looking to do these events too. So if you have any good events, reach out to us because we'd love to bring our troops with us.
Did you get help from Mayor John Curtis when he saw what was happening?
It was funny because right after that race finished, Saturday, Sunday rolled by. Monday morning, I got a call from my boss, and he said, "Come talk to me about your team." And I'm like, "Oh man, they did something dumb, right?" Mayor Curtis had actually contacted our county commissioners, and the county commissioners reached out and found me and said, "Whatever this is," Mayor Curtis was very impressed with it. Keep it going. So maybe we'll have to dial in a favor one of these days because he's moved up in office too.
Yes,
so.
he has.
Mhm.
You should ask him for some federal funding now.
He
or
may not know
something
how
like that.
influential he was to the beginning and the foundation of this.
But he
team.
probably didn't enjoy that first tap on his
No,
butt.
he probably didn't. Yeah, still don't understand why, but it was good.
Okay. Hey, thanks for so
My
much
pleasure.
for coming on.
My pleasure.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you for having me.
What a great organization. Randall,
I keep finding all these. See, what you don't understand, and the more I've worked at Odyssey House, I've become involved with the recovery community, and there's just so many thousands of people working in the recovery area. And not just people at some place like Odyssey House, it's people like this, or the person we interviewed earlier from Utah State's Extension Service, which I would have never known if I, and we're going to have more guests like this from weird areas of life that you might not. When you think of recovery, you think of somebody going into rehab and not drinking or not using for a given period of time, and hopefully it'll last for a lifetime. But there's all these other peripheral people who are, and groups and organizations that are working on recovery.
Yeah, and speaking of recovery, if you have some questions, you have someone you know or love who's involved with addiction, be it alcohol or drugs, it's very simple to call this number on your screen, and that's for Odyssey House. And Odyssey House is a recovery center. That is an amazing group, and since I've met Randall,
801-322-3222.
he's got it down.
Even at my age, I can remember a number.
Third week on the job, he had that thing memorized.
Yeah, right.
But Odyssey House has some amazing people to talk to, and if you want to talk to Randall, he is a great guy. We met over at the AA Central office, and this show was a result of that. But there's so many people out there who want to help. And if you have a problem, the second you ask someone for help, it's not just your problem, it's their problem as well. And these people want to help. And so, great show. Thanks for coming on.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Randall and I will change into our running outfit.
Let's go.
I've got an appointment I've got to go to.
You're gonna run to your appointment.
Yeah, exactly. We'll walk slowly to the car. But we really enjoyed this. We'll see you next time. Thanks so much for watching.